Hey, good to see you. Good to see you. Did you have a good night last night? Yeah, yeah. My name is Juhani Honkala, and I'm the founder and the CEO of Hats Entertainment. And a little bit about my past. So, like early 2000, I co-founded a game studio in South Korea. We were focusing on free-to-play games. We were probably one of the very first game studios ever to do free-to-play games. Then I worked for a Japanese company. We created a gaming platform for Japanese market. And after that, I joined Rovio and built their advertisement platform and run their advertisement and cloud business. And then slowly we were starting to think like, what would be the future of gaming? And that I had been like long time in free-to-play scene. I had seen all that. I'm an avid gamer. I love games. I used to play a lot when I was kid, and I started thinking like, is this the end? That everybody is just focusing on free-to-play games, and that comes with certain constraints for the game design and the whole user experience. That I used to love games in its all diversity, like all great tactical games, strategic games, deep storytelling games, everything. But now everybody were just focusing on a very single track of optimizing free-to-play core loop. And it felt like, is this really the end? Is there nothing else but just ever like better just optimized core loop of free-to-play? That's it. And then we started really thinking like what it would actually require to make a difference, to make something that would enable developers to focus again on making great games instead of just thinking of optimizing the core loop and thinking of the monetization. So what does it actually take to change and shift the paradigm back to great gaming? And that's how it all started. And when we started this, the company was founded 2.5 years ago. The concept started 4 years ago, like really trialing it. At the time, I think the cloud gaming was at the bottom, like in its hype, in a sense that like many startups had failed to do it. There were like quite big names, with the Sony acquiring Gaikai, trying to do it. Google bought 2 cloud gaming startups early on. There was like lots of people trying to do that, and lots of like actually millions or billions invested in that. And it seems all those had failed. They had been struggling even to get their product out from the beta. They had been still running some alpha tests in one country, and they had been trying like last 10 years or something. And I'm not sure how many of you have ever tried the cloud gaming, but it still seems like not many people are like really out there with the real final products yet. So it was quite challenging time to start it. Nobody believed like what we wanted to do. They were like questioning a lot about all the technology challenges, blah blah blah, and media wasn't talking about cloud gaming either. So it wasn't really like good time to start in that sense. But we believed that we can do it better than anyone else. And now, like, if you think what media is saying today, they are actually much more positive now than they used to be even like 1 year or 2 years ago. So Ubisoft has been like tremendously supportive about the cloud gaming. There are many other companies thinking now that they would come back to the cloud gaming. The Microsoft is saying like they would like to embrace the idea with the new Xbox. There are like lots. Almost every week there is something new about the cloud gaming, and finally people start to grasp that actually, whoa, there can be something. And then I think like we have done our part in that. So I think we have had a good media visibility for Hats, and that I think like we really are. Not I just think we really are the first cloud gaming platform for the mobile that actually works. And then like platforms are nothing like without great support. So like also like developers are starting to believe in the story. So we have been able to create good partnerships with major publishing studios and game studios across the world. So we have lots of great names there. Of course, Rovio, which is our packer, but then Sega, lots of Japanese companies. We have Ubisoft, we have SNK. We have lots of great studios from small to big. And then one of the questions was like when we started that Google would block us straight away. This would be something illegal, something like you shouldn't try. But that I think may just try harder in a sense. Like I like challenges. I like when people say you can't succeed, you must fail. So that I think that what keeps us running in a sense. But Google actually featured us now in 18 European countries. So they are super supportive, like what we do. But then like I think this cloud gaming is not really about just us as Hatch. We are like one company, and I think we are leading the scene right now. We are the only one actually works. But then the cloud gaming as an idea is larger than us. And that's why we wanted to start this new track. That I remember like when we were having some like small conferences back in Korea early 2000 about the free-to-play. Not many people understood like what we are doing. And the people back home here in Finland, they were laughing at me. Because they were like saying like, I'm not making real games because they don't come in a box. They are not in a box in a store. That's what was they thinking of real game. And they were thinking like, nobody can be making real game if you can download the game and if you can download it for free. It just doesn't make sense. So I think at the time, not many people understood it. And our intent here is to really spread the information and really try to make this now a new track for the gaming in general, for the mobile gaming, but for the gaming in general, that the people can really start innovate in a different ways. So why we are excited about it? So first of all, with the cloud gaming, you can play games anywhere you are on all screens. So it just doesn't need to be restricted to the mobile. You could think of like playing on the other screens as well. It's still one game that runs on the server, so you don't need to think of the porting costs or things like that. Then you can run every game immediately, which means that you don't have that hard conversion step anymore of like getting people to download your game. It's more about like then how do you market your game? Otherwise, how do you send your users a message that maybe try this game? And when they, for example, get a notification and they press the notification, they can start immediately playing. So they are in the game in a matter of 2 seconds, instead of going this hurdle of going to the App Store, downloading the game, waiting it to install, and then most likely you need to register for the game, blah, blah, blah. So it can take like 10 minutes to get to gaming. But with cloud gaming, the chance is that you can actually get to play in 2 seconds. And that's what we actually do in Hatch. So you can start game in a few seconds, you are in the game. And then the games are always the latest version. So you're never going to have the problem that you have actually different versions of game running out there. So you don't need to design your backend to be forwards or backwards compatible. You just can be sure that it's always the same game. Great for the multiplayer games, for example. Great for any games that like is dependent on a certain version of the game. And it also like there's no barrier from the customer's point of view. They don't even notice if you update the game. Now, actually, when you update the game, you need to factor in that maybe you lose some people because they don't want to update the game, they don't want to download a new version. With the cloud gaming, you can always run the latest version of the game. And that is huge benefit. You can even think of like making your company in a different way so that you actually update the game every day or something. Like you can make the games much more dynamic in that sense if you think like you don't have constraints on update cycle anymore. And then they also don't take any storage space on your phone or any on other device you might having. So you have much more freedom to create. You don't need to be concerned that this game now takes like 200 megabytes or 1 gigabyte and it's too heavy, or it just takes too much space, so like people don't download it. So you don't have any of these challenges with the cloud gaming. And these are like super huge, very obvious benefits. And you can see it from the Netflix and the Spotify. They are already basically doing that. So why the games are still very old-fashioned? Why do you really need to download and install game? It was like fancy like in the 80s, but now it's like, I don't know, 2018? So a long time. And then, and this is something like we truly believe in, is that like in every other industry, subscription economy has taken off and it's super trending. But in gaming, it's still, there are some good trials. There's some like local third-party app store making it successful. But everybody is struggling to make it global. Everybody is struggling to make it to scale well. And we really believe that this cloud gaming with the on-demand, easy play model, it makes things more approachable, more easy. And it's actually a key enabler for the subscription economy, which then enables for you guys to do great games and monetize in a different way. So we feel like this is a way to actually bring back lots of premium game experiences that are struggling today in the current market. And then with the cloud gaming, you can also do lots of fancy things that you can basically boost what's the native game experience. So for example, with the Hatch, we have developed this concept of live leaderboards, which means that every game, or almost every game in the service, we have Hatch-level leaderboards for them. So even the games that were not designed to have any leaderboards, games do not need to have any support for the leaderboards. We are able to have leaderboards for them. Good example is Hitman Go, what we just released. We had a Hitman challenge. I think it ended yesterday. Good, congrats for the winners. But it's a good example. A live leaderboard, so people could actually compete, they could compare their scores, and it's very fancy. Like when you are playing, you can actually see the scores updating, and you can see real time what's your ranking according to the others. So you don't need to even exit the game. You don't need to close the game. You can see it all real time. And it's super engaging, it's super fancy. We really love that feature. And I think half of the office, or almost more than that, were just playing Hitman Go like a few last weeks. So we are behind the schedule otherwise. And then with Hatch, you can also like play together every game. So even like single player games that do not have any multiplayer features, you can just invite your friends to play with you. No matter where you are. So like I could play with my kids, like if I'm traveling somewhere on a business trip, I could just play with my kid and help him through difficult parts in the game. And those are the things that you can do like when you are actually doing cloud gaming. But otherwise, like it's just a fancy dream. Like nobody have been able to do it. And we showed these live leaderboards for Google, for example, and they couldn't believe like how we were able to do it. They've been struggling with the Game Center and to get people to use that. But then we just have suddenly leaderboards for all games without any modifications needed. So lots of benefit there. And then it's just like more fun that way. And most importantly, it boosts the game's native KPIs. So basically, the platforms become part of the equation, so that it's not just a way for people to get games. It's actually also like a way for the game developers to boost their game native KPIs. So it's not just that. It's kind of like working together instead of just being a just delivery mechanism for the developer. So that's why I find it interesting. It's make it more active ecosystem that way. And then this is huge as well. And not many people still grasp the benefits of this. But with the cloud gaming, you can actually create much better multiplayer games than has ever been possible. I have a background in developing lots of multiplayer games myself. I've been working on MMORPGs as a developer. And I know like how difficult it is actually to make it work. I know how difficult it is to actually create this network layer of all the movement predictions and whatnot, and like handling the lost packets with the UDP and all kinds of things. So it takes like 6 months to get anything running. So 6 months, you're just wasting your time on the network coding before you can actually start to create something. And I think some game engines have spent much more than half a year on the network one. But with cloud gaming, you don't need any of that. You don't even need network programming experience. So we have been doing some of games of our own, and we have been doing some modifications to existing games to support multiplayer, and it's super easy. Like think of like old game consoles or home computers. You had just like 2 joysticks or gamepads connected to the one computer. The exact same paradigm and architecture works with the cloud gaming. So you can think you just have multiple controllers to the one game instance. And that suddenly makes everything so much simpler. Because then suddenly you are always 100% synchronous with everything. You don't have this alternate reality like movement prediction problems that people are seeing, like different views for that are not coherent. You don't have any of that. Then you just don't need to care of anything. I mean, like it's super simple to make game that runs on one instance and can read multiple inputs. And then you can even show different views to different people, and it's still super simple. So this enables, I think, a new multiplayer gaming types that are really reliant on the latency, and that really require that people see exactly the same thing what's happening. And then I think like think of like if you can spend that 6 months on actually making great games instead of like debugging the network code, what is the greater thing you can do with that? So this is huge. And then no limitations in a sense. So you could think of like huge online worlds being created as well. So for example, like think of a next generation Minecraft or the whatever like virtual world. You could run that on the server, and actually you can send only very minimal information for one client. So I think it really allows for like completely new kind of online gaming experiences that are fundamentally better than the existing ones. And then since you don't need to update, it's always you can update the game without any challenges. So it all sounds super great, right? How many think this sounds great? Okay, most of you. Not everyone is convinced yet. All right. How does it work? And this has been the question like we have been facing every day since we started. People have been like challenging everything what we do, and then like these are basically the most of the challenges. The inherent latency with this, people think it's just not going to fly. There's always too much latency. The last mile is not working. The networks are bad. Bad connectivity that you might be offline and it just doesn't work. And I want to play in airplane and somewhere like countryside where you don't have any connectivity. And then like it probably takes too much data and I can't afford it and all that. And then even if those are like okay, then the server side costs like would be too expensive anyway, so that you can't make this a viable business. And then if you can solve all those 4, I'm sure that app stores would kill you anyway. So why to even try? And then of course we know all that people expect high quality. You can't give them 80% of quality. You can't give them 90% of quality. They require this 100%. They always want the best experience. So you can't just go there and say like, oh, it's kind of okay, but you know, it's cloud gaming, so it's not really that good, but it's cloud gaming. So you can't go to customer that way. It has to be perfect. It has to be even better than the native experience. And then also, like of course, like with the Spotify and Netflix, you need to educate people. You need to educate the market that what's a new way of consuming games. What's this new way of entertaining yourself? And then of course, like you need to get the developers to back this up as well. So lots of things. So far, I think we have solved the latency issues. Our architecture is very low latency. So we are demonstrating that we can run games on 60 FPS on 4G. And with the coming 5G, the latencies are going to be super low. We have been already trialing HATs over real 5G connections, and it's working super great. Then bad connectivity comes also like from that. With the 5G and all the developments, you get actually very good, robust pipe to the end user. So it's going to be less of a problem. And most of the people are used to be online all the time. So there are very few use cases anymore where you actually need to be offline. And I have been actually playing HATs also on airplane, like when going from Helsinki to Tokyo. There's this, Finnair provides this internet, and I've been actually able to play some games like in the airplane, so that works too, which is pretty cool. Then the Google is already supporting us, so like we have been able to discuss and make us compatible with the App Store guidelines. And I think we have reached a level where we are not making compromises anymore. So the expectation level has been very high, and we are really able to offer people great experience. And with the 5G, I think we can offer experiences that would not be possible even without cloud gaming. But then I think what we are now working on is the consumer learning curve. And how do we educate people that this is actually a better way to play? This is actually like much easier, much more fun way to play. How do you communicate shared single player? How do you communicate all these fancy features? How do you communicate that actually premium games are great experiences? They're great entertainment. I think they should be categorized as its own form of entertainment, not just like thinking they are like a subcategory of mobile games or like a small subcategory besides the free-to-play. And then the developer buying is also other one, and that's why like we are organizing this track. So we really would like developers to start to innovate and think what is the great things they can do with the cloud gaming, either with us or any other cloud gaming company out there. But I think there is so much you can do, and together like we can really make this the next disruption that really changes the way people play games and provides them richer experiences. So I think it looks pretty good. On the bandwidth side, we have demonstrated that this is quite low bandwidth after all. So it requires drastically less bandwidth than watching Netflix. And we can actually run games in 60 FPS with much lower frame rate than, for example, PS Now or any other competition out there. So, this basically shows that it's very viable. And on the server side costs, I can say that that's very healthy as well, and we have been able to find the architectures and technologies that make this commercially sustainable as well. And then like one few examples of like what does it really mean then creatively, for example, like we are now like measuring the success based on the playtime minutes. So the more people play your game, the more you earn. And these are now like basically our leaderboards for the games, like what are the most played games. And none of these games have more than 7 hours of gameplay in total. You can play the Camel Run in 3 minutes if you are very good. How much was it? What was the record?
The speedrunner did it in 3 minutes and 15 seconds.
3 minutes and 15 seconds, and you are finished with the game. Camel Run. But it shows that you don't need to design these games anymore to be kind of like everlasting. But you can actually think of like making a game that has a real ending. And then like people who don't really like playing free-to-play games starts to play these kinds of games. So this is all about like seeking a new kind of audience for the games, from gamers that like really don't like to play free-to-play games that do have like endless loops. personally enjoy a lot about playing adventure games and things like that, and it feels really relaxing and entertaining when you can actually also like complete the game. So it gives you a very different kind of reward than being in kind of like infinite loop. And so what's next in HATS? We are now like in the 18 European countries, and we are looking to expand to the other areas as well. We actually have a test data center in Chennai in India, and we realized that how come like so many people are using our Indian data center, and we found out that Indians there were some instructions in the YouTube how to sideload HATS app to their phones and like start playing in India, where we are not like officially available yet. And we're also looking to other markets, Asian markets, US as well. So we seek to be global. And compared to any other cloud service, cloud gaming company out there, it's quite easy for us to go to new markets, and we have been able to demonstrate that already with the Europe. Many other our competitors are struggling, like it takes them a year to go to one new country or something. So we've been able to go to 18 countries already, and looking to go global very strongly. And then this is something like when we started, we were thinking like, and hearing that 5G isn't ready, the standardization is not ready, it takes at least till 2022 or something like when things get ready. Then we started hearing that maybe it's 2021. Then it started to be 2020. Now in the Mobile World Congress, like we had a joint booth with Qualcomm, and they are very bullish on 5G. People started talking about maybe it's actually 2019. So it seems it's almost every day sooner than what you thought. And now we are seeing that major players in the industry are going to launch their 5G handsets either late this year or then next year the latest. So the 5G is coming super soon, which takes then away all the remaining challenges with the last mile connectivity, the bandwidth consumption you might be having, the expensive data caps, etc. The 5G is there very soon to take care of all that. And then there really is no excuse anymore to not embrace the cloud gaming. So I'm very happy to see so many people of you here, because now you really can think like, okay, the next year 5G happens, the cloud gaming is inevitable in a sense that it's just getting more popular. What can you do to utilize it for your own benefit? And then, like I said earlier, like why to restrict on mobile? So like I think there's lots of room to offer great gaming and the same games already on the other screens. Like, why not to play same game like when you're on the go and when you are having fun with your family in your living room? So I don't see a reason like why to separate games so much with the kind of screen technology you are having. It's still, with the cloud gaming, it would be still this one game you can run on the server side. And I think we are missing like one slide there. Yeah, okay. But for the last, like I just wanted to really encourage you that this is not about just HATS. This is not about us doing everything. We would really like to create this sustainable track in Pocket Gamer and hopefully in the other conferences as well, that people start to innovate. That what does it actually take to make the subscription economy work? What kind of games work best in that economy? And what kind of crazy things you can actually do when you think of this architecture and the live leaderboards playing together are great features, but how can you even make them greater? And I hope this is a start of a new era in the gaming. And hey, thanks a lot for attention. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
And we do have time for questions, so please raise your hand and I will give you the microphone. I will go here and then here. Thank you.
So, hi, I'm Eric from Exit Games. I'm going to talk here in a few minutes anyway, but I have a business related question. I don't know if you mentioned this in the talk, maybe I've missed, but I see also some great opportunities here for game spectating using this kind of tech, because it makes so much sense. So what are you guys working on this as a subscription model special for these things, or what are your thoughts about like spectating games with this kind of stuff?
Very early on, like when we started, we were thinking like this esports and streaming and spectator sports in a sense like would be a very important part of this. So we have had that on the roadmap like from very early on. It's just been a matter of like how to prioritize and when to roll it out. I think it's going to be exciting, but it's so far like we have been concentrating on getting the basics right, and then we are thinking of like we build on top of that. But the broadcasting is definitely something like we are thinking.
Cool. Hey, as Tep from Ministry of Games, as a developer, what kind of input latencies would we have to expect on 5G? Like, what as a developer, like what would we have to prepare for?
So with the let's say like with the 4G, you get the network latency of 40 milliseconds, and then you probably have some additional overhead on top of that. So like with the 4G, you can reach, I think, at optimally like I think 50 milliseconds of latency. With 5G, you can actually go sub 10 milliseconds. So 10 milliseconds or something is going to be, I think, the standard there. So that's going to be huge.
We have time for more questions. I have been making jokes for the last 24 hours that Finnish people are horrible asking questions on stage. Like people leave the stage and it's like a swarm. Everybody goes talk to the presenters, but they hate doing this. So I will ask a question if people don't mind. They were talking about spectators, but do you think how it's going to work with esports? But I can see quite a good potential also for, as we already can create leaderboards to do real competitive esports using cloud more.
Yeah, I think it works very well with the esports. It gives a more level playing field than what's possible today. It's the whole architecture is very natural to all kinds of streaming, and like you said, we already have the leaderboards, so it's quite easy add-on. And actually, like we have been running these kind of casual esports tournaments now. Like we started with the Qualcomm in the Mobile World Congress. We run Angry Birds challenge with the leaderboards there. And we've been continuing since, like we now did the same challenge thing for the TubeCon in Helsinki, and we are doing that in Sweden, actually in Stockholm this weekend, I think, as well. So like we are continuing doing that, and we are planning to add more games to that mode, the challenge mode there, and I think we take it from there. But definitely that's something like very interesting, and I think it also helps to boost the games and their native KPIs.
Yes, okay. Otherwise, I have another one. We're going to be talking here.
I was waiting for somebody else to do, but so I have a technical one now. There's always this question about latency, so you guys do a great job on working on that. And normally that means you try to run the game on a server that is as close as possible to the client.
Right,
so
yeah.
you do, let's say it's a last mile server.
Yeah.
So, and this greatly simplifies multiplayer, as you said.
Yeah,
if you can connect people who are close together.
Yeah.
Let's say you have people from different parts of the world who want to play together. You still, I would think, and I'm going to discuss that in my perspective in a few minutes, but I think you still need to at least communicate between servers. And so what is the kind of tech or networking architecture, for example, you would recommend using between servers if you want to connect people who are far from each other, because you still want to use the last mile server for them for the streaming of the content?
Yeah. So first of all, like it's good to understand like what's the kind of the maximum range like one data center can serve, and even like we embrace the edge computing because it's useful for most use cases. we actually like run now, like for the Europe, we run mostly from the Amsterdam. So for example, like in Finland, like when you are playing, the game actually runs in Amsterdam. So I don't know like how far is that, but it's like 1,000 or a few thousand kilometers away. So it's not, you don't need to be that close. So you can actually serve quite big region with the one data center. So you don't need to have that much, I think, even like with the multiplayer things, like you could think like you can handle Europe with one server. Then if you really want to go to this kind of more complex setup, like where you have like basically few servers running the same game, serving the audience, and then kind of connecting and synchronizing between, that would work great for the, I think, massive online games, like with big worlds. There are already like technologies like you can use. There are like engine like improbable.io, for example, that does the synchronization, and many other alternatives like that have been developed for like kind of classical multiplayer scenarios, but you could use those very same techs in the cloud space as well.
Anybody else? Yes.
So I have two questions basically. One would be, how about save states or like the save progress from your game? Is that being stored right now? And the other one I have to ask, it's only on Android right now. There's a ton of market share on Apple. Is that in the works? What are your challenges with launching on Apple right now?
Okay, the user states, like they are residing in the servers and they are stored per user's profile. So like user can change the device, they can continue on playing on the other device, and it all works. Basically, we are saving the state as the game saves it. So it's all very like transparent and actually quite simple to do. Then on our go-to market. That is something like we are working on, and we are like our strategy like early on was to actually focus first on Android, and that is from the learnings from the past that I have personally done the mistake of focusing on too many platforms at once, and that has caused the challenge that the iterations time are actually much longer, because then you need to submit to different app stores. They have the different publishing rhythm. You need to build for the backwards compatibility, all kinds of things that you don't need to do when you are focusing on one platform at first. So we wanted to make sure that we have the winning service and we can iterate fast, and then we take it to every other platform out there.
We have time for one last question. If not, I would like to ask, with all the aspects that we talked about, the leaderboard, the esports, how do you see the social interaction improving with the cloud gaming?
Very good question. When we started, one of the big reasons to do all that was that we realized that people are spending so much time with their mobile phones. The time they could actually spend with their families and the friends instead. So we wanted to find ways that people can start enjoying games together again. I used to love like when I was a kid and I was playing with the friends, and it was for us a way to spend great time together. And now you see like most of the people are just playing alone, like you take a valuable time away. So I think it drastically, with these all social innovations that are only possible with the cloud gaming, like you can actually do it much more interesting for the people to be together again. So it kind of becomes a medium for great time, like movies are, for example. So